a quick programming note before we get to today's show. I am joined by Oshuan and Patrick, which thanks again to those fellows for taking basically double the amount of time out of their day that we kind of all anticipated for this. But this was recorded late on Friday night. Everybody's had some adult beverages, and while this show normally is clean, this particular episode does have some amount of cursing, so bear that in mind. Also, before we get to today's interview, I wanted to give a shout out to all of my patrons, and specifically Brad, Jason, Justin, Patrick, Peter, and Roland. Support from patrons helps keep the lights on around here, and I certainly appreciate it. If you want to support what we're doing, you can find us at patreon.com/thebuildface. Okay, and with that, we will get to one of the most fun shows I've had in a while. Enjoy. And we are back on the Build Face podcast. I'm your host, Mr. Ben, and today I'm joined by not one, but two co-conspirators. I'm going to start with current world champion Oshuan. Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here. What's up, everybody? Yeah, it's been a long week, so I'm just happy I made it to this podcast.
Well, we're happy to have you here, man. And we are also joined by West Coast representation and co-host I sometimes mute, Patrick. Welcome.
No, it is good to be here, and it's good to be heard.
All right, so before we dive into talking about the real meat and potatoes of the 2PCG versus 2PCG championship, we did get two big pieces of news coming out of Gen Con that I'm sure everybody is super excited about. So let's start with the boys. Osh, do you have any thoughts about the boys coming to the game?
I got a couple. All right, so first off, Mother's Milk better have some alternate win condition because he doesn't fight, right? Like he's the purveyor of things. He's the one that's supposed to be the glue that holds everybody together. He has to have an alternate win con. I'm thinking it's going to be something around the lines of if you have these characters on the field, you win. Uh, but I actually am really excited. I'm a big fan of the show. I still think that there's going to be a lot of not. I wouldn't say difficult keywords, but I would say that there's going to be some new keywords that we're going to have to get used to, and I'm really excited about it.
Patrick, you got any thoughts on the boys?
I love the show. I mean, it's like I remember you guys ever watch Nip Tuck back in the day. I thought Nip Tuck was like a fun show, but it was one of those shows that you saw it and you were like, "This is not for everyone. Like, this is definitely not for everyone." And I feel like the boys is the same way. It's like I very much enjoy it. It's very cool. The dystopian, like, we assume all these heroes are paragons of truth and virtue, but maybe they're not. Maybe they're a good number of them are jerks just like the rest of us. So I love the show, but I think there's going to be a lot of cool cards. The interesting thing will be to see like how they do it justice without completely falling afoul of the censors.
Yeah,
Right.
it does kind of make me wonder if the game's going to be heading in kind of a more mature direction, generally speaking. Both of these two announced properties, the degree of gore is kind of core to what they are.
Yeah, and like they do it on purpose, right? Like it's well known that these two IPs are gory to every extent possible. I mean, I don't know. All you gotta say is season 2, episode 1 of The Boys, and you automatically know that they like to reach.
Yeah.
They definitely like to reach.
No, for sure. To Osh's point about like Mother's Milk having an alt win, I think if there's gonna be an alt win, just off the top of my head, I think it's more like a Butcher alt win, and it might be something akin to Buffy's level 2, like pay whatever power symbols at the end of the turn, like you die. I wonder if it'll be like Butcher throws Butcher uses V, and like he gets how
spoilers.
I'm saying that he could in theory. That's not a spoiler. But it's like Butcher gets on the juice, and then he has one turn to like rip the other person's head off.
Yeah, I can see that. Or maybe the V is like some kind of a healing ability. Like you get plus what's the predator equipment where you get to heal? It's like med kit and active camo in one or something like that.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Or maybe but you lose it after a certain number of turns. Like that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Well, it does seem with the television representation of the boys they do have to rely on direct combat a great deal less. They were significantly powered down from the comics, where they could actually go toe to toe with a lot of the superheroes and
Right.
come out on top. Like, in fact, they beat up most of them. It was only, the select few that they really had trouble with. Whereas in the show, it is a lot more relying on wits, using technology, misdirection, manipulating people, staging events to try to get dirt on them. So they're overall, I think alternate win conditions kind of fit thematically, but
Mhm.
mechanically, do we need more alt win stuff in photo?
Absolutely. You're talking
Okay.
to, like, I love combo decks. I love stuff that you need pieces in order to win. I love stuff that comes together and just locks out your opponent. So yeah, alt win conditions. I'm all for them.
If they are things that lock in on like turns 5, 6, later in the game, I'm totally with you. Some of this Kate Kelly stuff we've been seeing, I'm not as much a fan of.
Yeah, I can't lie. I don't like games to be over in 2 turns. I would prefer to at least get a chance to win the game. But Kate Kelly kind of negates a lot of stuff, so I
Yeah.
understand that.
Well, and
I
of
don't
course, no
mind.
shame to anybody who plays any particular deck. If it's legal for the tournament, it's legal for the tournament. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh no, there's shame. There is shame.
fair enough.
Hey, like you can hold your head as low as you want to with that check in your hand. There is shame.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, I like
So
the
I
alt
guess
wins as
oh,
well.
sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I like the idea of alt wins as well. Just like you guys were saying, like turn 2, turn 3 losses. That I mean, it just feels bad, and it squeezes people out of the game who might otherwise come to a tournament like that. They're like, oh, not unlike Outriders. Like I know some veteran players who at Gen Con for the side events were like, I would play, but Outriders are a thing, so I'm not going to play. And it's like, I don't think that's good for the game in general. I'm a big fan. I played a little Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, and I loved Exodia. God, Exodia was my jam. But it's like
Jesus
you're not getting a
Christ.
turn one Exodia. You're not
Yeah,
getting a
you are.
turn two. Well, I mean in theory there's one opening hand that could do that, but it's like I mean it's like later game.
Okay, I don't want to bring in other card games to this because I've definitely been turn one Exodia like 5 times. So whatever.
Fair enough.
I like that Super Awesome Games is willing to push the mechanical limits in such a way. Cards like Outriders really push what is an aggro deck, and they push it to the most, I would argue, probably an unhealthy extreme. And I like that they're willing to do those kind of things and take those chances. I just wish they were a little more proactive in reining in the excesses when they show up. Uh,
Mm.
Yeah,
Although
I agree.
overall, I don't think the game has even needed that many cards banned. Well, hey, we're getting way off track here. What about Mortal Kombat? Patrick, you got any opinions on Mortal Kombat?
I was a big fan of the game. I played it. Yeah, I mean, I think we all played it when we were kids. I haven't played it in a while. I've kind of loosely followed the characters in there and stuff, and like, I think it's a really cool IP. No, I mean, like, get over here, Sub-Zero freezing dudes, uppercuts, fatalities, and stuff. It'll be interesting to see what they take and what they like kind of pass on, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Ash, you got any thoughts on Mortal Kombat?
Absolutely. If Whoopsie is not a card, I swear to God, like that needs to be a card. Like, but whatever. I actually am really excited for Mortal Kombat. I thought it was going to be in the illustrated card pool, but I think someone said it's going to be in photo.
Yeah.
I believe it was confirmed by Mark, or at
Okay.
least that claim was made on Discord. I didn't independently verify it, but I can't imagine anybody would lie. That'd be dumb.
Yeah, that would be real stupid. Unless you know what,
Yes.
I'm not even gonna say it. So so yeah, so having them in photo kind of changes it a little bit. So I'm at first I was expecting like a lot of turn rights, a lot of combat masters, like maybe even something a little bit more elevated than the +4/+4. Uh, I was expecting like really just have to fight and then wound acceleration after a certain number of wounds, right? Say if Scorpion is like, oh, if he's done 3 wounds to your opponent's main character while level 2, pay 3 greens or 3 reds, and next time he wounds their main character, he wins, right? Something like that. Some
Hmm.
kind of alt wins where you have to fight first. But Now I'm not so sure because looking at photo, yeah, they're the king of aggro. Like nobody's gonna put, not even just dogs. Like I would put photo up against any aggro deck that's coming out of Illustrated and put them on top simply because of Hella. Um, I'm thinking it's gonna be more so of um photo is getting the combat masters. I mean, like, yeah, the combat masters, the martial artists, all the stuff that Illustrated has that photo doesn't have. Like they're starting to get more keywords thanks to MK.
Mhm.
And I think that'll be pretty interesting, right? Because a lot of people are saying that Illustrated has a lot of these powers over photo because let's face it, photo's really limited with what they can do unless they're in a specific format. Like if you go open world, I wouldn't play dogs. Like open binders, I wouldn't play dogs at all because dogs can be beaten by numerous things in open binder. But if they start to get stuff like combat master, they start to get stuff where it's like um all the basically all the stuff that Illustrator has, I think photo then becomes like a real contender because let's face it, like if you take out dogs and possibly mare, photo doesn't have a lot of MCs that you want to play on a regular.
Yeah,
When
it'll
they
be.
first started photographic, there was a few uh the word I was going to use is promises, but maybe that's too strong. There was a few kind of descriptors that Upper Deck rolled out. Things like this will be a good starting place for new players. The
Mm,
cards are going to have maybe greater per, like more powerful cards per card. They're kind of pushed a little bit compared to Illustrated, but that'd be balanced out by having kind of a narrower overall card pool. It'd be shallower. Now that we're getting these 200 card sets, presumably we're going to get them relatively quickly. So this is going to be a big injection, kind of an explosion in photographic content. Do we, do you, either of you guys have kind of an intuition as to what that means with regard to this being new player friendly? Is this kind of maybe potentially taking away one of the new player friendlier avenues for somebody to get into the game by throwing, or is the idea that photographic had to be limited kind of a pipe dream to begin with? I don't know. Patrick, do you have any ideas on that?
I mean, one could, I guess, make the argument also that, everyone, lots of people have access to comics, but like Marvel movies are like the big thing. Like, I mean, if like there, I know very few people who aren't watching Marvel movies on the regular, Marvel shows on the regular. One way it might be a like quote entry point for new players is it's like, did you watch Loki? Oh, you liked Loki? Well, this game has it in there. Like this, like these are screenshots from the game. In terms of like the playability, like brokenness, we'll have to. Mm, I don't know. Like I think from the beginning, people did say up front that like there was a lot of photo hate up front. Like I have like ask the some of the New York people. I've been on photo from the beginning. I was like, this is good stuff. Like it's broken. Like it's like it's competitive. I don't like. They can say all they want that it's like maybe a little easier place for people to get into, but I always thought it was broken, and it's only gotten more broken. Gunmen, like the government team, Valkyrie alt wins and stuff. So I think it's going to be it's going to be more powerful. I think that if you are going to go to a tournament and like think like, oh, like if people are playing photo cards, like I'll do well even if I am a casual player. I do not think that's going to be the case.
oh no, absolutely not.
Ash, you got any thoughts about the photographic universe pulling new players in?
So what I've noticed, and it's just off of my own observations, because I used to play a lot of different video games and stuff back in the day, and I noticed a lot of trends when it comes to these companies. They they like to cross over to different avenues and to bring in new players, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're crossing over to Mortal Kombat because they figure a lot of video game players are probably also card game players, so they'll pick up Mortal Kombat and try to get into the game that way. Like I get that, and that works. And on top of that, a lot of us that play card games are into video games, so that's why a lot of us are so hyped for Mortal Kombat. So kudos to SAG for dipping into that. As
Yeah.
far as the tournament scene goes, I've kind of always felt that once they started coming out with these really powerful photo cards, photo was the answer to everyone's request of a more tournament friendly uh competitive versus 2PCG, right?
Hmm.
Because they've come out multiple times and said that, they're plus kitchen table. Like they love kitchen table players. They want to cater towards kitchen table. That's why they don't ban any cards, right?
Hmm.
They want to make sure that everybody has access to all the cards that they have. Um I do think that photo, if you're playing at a strictly photo tournament outside of dogs and potentially mayor, that it is probably the most competitive format that you're going to play, because it's the sense, like when it comes from fighting games, like if you know you're playing against a certain character, a certain tier, whatever, 100% what their move list is, what their range is, what supers they can do, and so you have to outplay your opponent. When it comes to Illustrated, it's such a large card pool, you have no idea what's going on. Like you're sitting across from someone, and very good example was at Gen Con. You saw it across from somebody else's Carol. You got pretty much like, a stall deck that's trying to get to DP. Whereas you sat across from my Carol, you got a symbiote package.
Hmm.
But I know that in a competitive tournament, if I'm sitting across from a photo deck, I can almost 100% of the time name you exactly what's in their deck, each drop, each plot twist, each location. So that's a competitive standpoint, and I think that photo was meant to fill that gap in versus, and I think that's what they're doing. They're like, these cards are hard to play with. These cards are hard to make work. Competitive people are going to do it. Kitchen table people are probably not, but the competitive people are the ones that we're giving the $2,000 checks to. So here you are.
Do you think that
That's
the
Yeah.
kind of linear nature of photo is something that's worth preserving, or that just adding new cards kind of don't worry about it until it's actually a problem? It
What do you mean?
Well, like, so if one of the points of the kind of balance in a photo deck, you say if you sit down, you see their MC, you can probably name their whole curve. So there's a very linear nature to
Hmm.
how you build photo decks. And as we add more sets, like it appears like what we're going to see is at least one 200 card set. Like all the off Marvel IPs appear to be photo and have been for quite some time now. Uh, is there a tipping point where photo loses that linear nature? And if it does, is that kind of bad for what the goals of photo were? Or am I creating a problem where one doesn't exist? What do you think?
I think they switched gears. I think that when they were planning for Civil War, their main selling point for Civil War is that this is a great place to start for new players,
Hmm.
right? They dropped the photo saying that was where you'd started. Then they picked up with Civil War, and in my opinion, they did Civil War right. They said, okay, Civil War works. If you're a new player coming in, you get the gist of pretty much everything in the game, and then they released Venom, and I don't know. Uh, but in doing so, they opened up the floodgates to photo, because where if they were trying to say photo is for new players, they couldn't expand the list, right? Like
So
it's like,
maybe it's like the
okay,
baton's been handed off. Like the MCU
right,
battles
exactly.
was the new player start, and now that's been passed to Civil War, and that allows them to do more complex things in the photographic arena without compromising having that safe kiddie pool, for lack of a better term, for the new players to jump into. Is that kind of summarize where you were at?
Yeah, exactly.
I think I also think it might be that like it's these popular IPs that are even though it might not be kiddie pool in terms of strategy, it's very relatable and very popular IPs that'll draw people into the game. Like even if like let's see, what's one of my favorite anime? Like if they had like a really good um card game for Full Metal Alchemist, like I would be tempted to play it. Like just because even if it was
I
super
play that.
complicated, because I like the show so much. Josh and I were talking anime the other day. Like if they had one for like some of the Gundam series and it was like super straightforward, or if it was super complicated, I'd be like, you know what? I like the show so much. So I think if you're a player, look on the outside and you're like, yo, there's a more MK11 game or there's a boys game. I haven't heard of many other boys games, and I think there's a lot of people who like it. If you like the show and you see this game, even if it's a little complicated, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. Let me buy a couple sets.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's a great way to get people in because, like you said, the IPs. We also have to remember that these sets were supposed to come out a while ago. Like they were actually delayed, so they were trying to grab it up when this set was probably supposed to come out when like the boys season one ended, right? And
Yep.
then MK11 was probably slated to drop around Evo. That would be the smartest thing ever. So I think that they are trying to get like a flush of new players, which is great. I would love to sit across from some of these people that are at the Yugi World tournaments because they hooked onto this game because they also play Capcom, you know? Like any
Yeah.
Capcom fighter. I don't want to say Street Fighter because Street Fighter 5 is garbage right now. We don't want to talk about that.
Well, that one hasn't been added because it's garbage. I heard from a reputable source.
He's
So
not
I think
wrong.
one thing Super Awesome Games has always been really good at is creating 200 card boxes that play excellently within themselves. So even
Hmm.
if there's people who only buy the Mortal Kombat box and they only play Mortal Kombat characters against Mortal Kombat characters, those are going to be people who will self-describe themselves as fans of Versus 2 PCG. And even if they never dip a toe into the wider meta of playing in tournaments or even buying any other box, I'm happy to have those players in the community. Like more is better
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, well we're gonna move on from the exciting Gen Con news and let's get into the actual event. So to kind of set the table, when you started tournament preparation for this event, what main characters stuck out to you? What was the philosophy or the strategy that you approached testing with?
Man, it was very interesting. So I did a lot of testing with Patrick, a lot of theory crafting with Patrick. Um, I was almost dead set on Valkyrie. Reason being was because every time I sat down and I played with her, I did well, but I wasn't taking into account a lot of different things, and my draws for some reason for the course of like 3 months, my luck and my draws were ridiculous. Like no matter where I was playing, I was getting amazing hands, crazy sets. I just whatever you do, don't talk to Roland. It's been one of those things where it's like I was just drawing crazy, and I kind of sat back and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? Let me start branching out. Let me start trying some of these other MCs that are going to be supposed to be really good. So Patrick was actually pitching First Evil a lot, and it just didn't suit my play style. But I took up on Odin. I was on not Toxin. Was it Toxin?
Yeah, you were eyeballing toxin.
Yeah, I was on Toxin for a little bit, and I was trying to figure out ways to get to Dark Phoenix really quickly because if I could ramp or anything. So I played around with defenders and teleport, and man, it was just it was a lot of banging my head against the wall because whenever I actually thought something would work and put it together, I played against Patrick and it failed. Like, and I'm actually glad I have like such a strong testing partner because I don't want to go against like people that can't play the game well, or I'm like trying to hold back my secret tech. Like, nah, man, get yourself a partner who knows what the hell they're doing and just bang your head against the wall until you find something that works. Like that's pretty much what my strategy turned into.
So, were there any specific main characters, supporting characters, plot twists, any specific cards that you expected to perform well, but in testing were surprised by how poorly they did, or the reverse? Just within testing, what were the surprises that you came across?
Yeah, so in my testing, what is that team that gives you +4 attack, -4 defense?
So expect the
That monster
unexpected.
of the week.
Yeah, like I was trying to get Odin stunned by himself on his third turn using that team. That team did nothing for me outside of that, so it was like that sucks. Um, I was actually really disappointed that I think there was one supporting character for the X Files team that I could have played, and it was like completely useless. Um,
I need to
I
think.
was very, very surprised that Photo did not have a lot of options at 1 and 2. Actually, I don't think there's any. Is there? There's like one. No, there's two drops. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
like two ones and
it's,
two twos in the
it's
entire format for them.
it's Tanner and someone else. Oh, Caleb.
Yeah, Caleb. Shout outs to Caleb, by the way. Um,
The card or the person?
at the both actually, but
Oh, good, good, good.
yeah, the supporting character cast on Photo was always the same. Like there was obvious choices you would pick over the other one. Even when I was playing Valkyrie, I was like, Drax is good, but no, like I would rather have Groot or save a couple of health. On illustrated side, um I will tell you the truth right now. I actually did not practice with illustrated for a good 2 months. I did not
Whoa.
touch an illustrated card. I
I
was
can.
like 100% Photo is taking this. Illustrated's whack. Galactus can't do it because he loses to anything. Like I actually did not lose to Galactus in my testing the entire time, except for
Were you
that
worried
one time.
about developing a blind spot? Or did you eventually go, okay, now's the time we have to pay attention to Illustrated just so we know what the counterplay is? Or were you that confident in photo cards being the way?
I was 100% confident that Photo cards was the way. Like I did not think Illustrated was going to make a dent at all. And to just like wrap it up, I played. I was playing in the build phase tournament, the online tournament,
Hmm.
and in the finals, I had to go against Vern. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to play Valkyrie. I'm not going to play Odin because that's probably what I'm taking to Gen Con. You know what? Let me see. Oh yeah, Carol. Let me throw this together real quick as a joke. It's not going to be that great. I'm gonna maybe put the symbiote package in there, throw in some might makes right. Yeah, let's do that. Like, you know what? This should be fun. I'm probably gonna lose, but you know what? It's gonna be fun.
Wow.
And yeah, yeah, that's how that happened. And I
That
just I sat down with the deck and I was playing against Vern. I was like, this is really smooth. I like this.
that's wild. So Patrick, after you had invested this time testing with somebody who was so all in on photo cards being the way, like how did this revelation hit you?
To be honest, when he was going to play Vern with Carol, like we I've played in a couple of the build phases, a couple of the Buckeye tournaments and stuff, and I've had the opportunity to play Carol before, and I do like the character. I think she's very, very, very powerful. When Venom comes out, I think he overshadows her a little bit just because he holds on to his counters. She gets bigger quicker, but he holds on to his counters. But I remember looking at her and thinking you get some blues and she's doing okay. But if you don't get some blues, she's not doing so good. And she felt like just in the initial stages of the testing, kind of like a high roll sort of deck, like get a couple blues, do okay, otherwise not. So when he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play this against Vern," I was like, "I don't know, man. Like, Vern's obviously a veteran player, posts good stats and stuff like that." I was like, "I think you might want to play something else." He's like, "Nah, I'm just gonna play this because it's like good enough, and I don't want to like spill the sauce on what I really want to play." And like he said, I remember I watched it. I was like, "That went pretty well." Then when we like, and then and Osh, like he just, I mean, it was he, like you said, he was bouncing ideas off me, and we were testing stuff like that. But like this, he was the man who was in the room under the bright lights, like what card goes where and stuff like that. I mean, he put in a lot of work, and he fine tuned that build. We also obviously, like Ash has mentioned this before, we were testing with Jose Barrios, who, like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to know if he's good, just ask the people down in Florida.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a good sharp player for sure.
no,
Yeah,
he
I
is
man, that's crazy.
very very good guy, and like it's always interesting because like I think I obviously have a play style. Everyone knows it's a very slow play style, but that's my slow, deliberate play style. Osh is like a little more like he's a little more like guns blazing in there, and I think Jose falls
Absolutely.
somewhere in between. So I think the three of us bouncing ideas off each other like really helped fine tune like both of the decks that those two guys brought to Gen Con.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Funny enough, who I would call the MVP of my deck is Praetor. And Praetor was not on my original list. Praetor was not on my final list that I was planning to take in Gen Con. I was literally we're in a group chat with Jose. Jose randomly sends to the group chat, "Hey, what about Praetor?" And I'm looking at it, I'm like, "Yo, my bags are packed. I was about to put my suitcase in my car and I had to go and get my cards out, find Praetor, pack it in my suitcase, and then repack everything else and get it in my car." I was pissed, but and then at the same time, I was so grateful because I was like, why didn't I think of this? It's
That
like
card
an
has proven
obvious
to be
choice.
sneaky good across a couple of different metas. I mean, by himself, he's
Yeah.
kind of a nothing burger, but you would never run him by himself. You run him with a bunch of evil dudes that you want to stagger encounters on, and he's very consistent in doing that.
Oh yeah. He 100% gave me the edge in every game that he came down. And it was very interesting because I think I forgot who I was playing against, but they had to stay down. I know they did because I watched the video afterwards. Somebody was recording over his shoulder, and they stunned Prater, and they didn't stay down Prater. And I was like, so people still don't believe in
You
Prater?
done screwed up. You done screwed
Like
up.
next turn came out Red Gob, and he was a 9/6 with a showing green. Like you messed up, bro.
I mean, to be fair, I think we've all had those misplay moments under the bright lights. Like
Oh,
that
for
Absolutely.
is a thing
sure.
that happens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Everybody has.
So, what did you think the field was going to be? I mean, obviously, we now know exactly what it was, so you could just read
Yep.
off the main characters and be like, "These were my predictions." But for the sake of conversation, how did you feel about the meta predictions? Do you feel like you kind of picked the field correctly? Were you surprised that anybody did or did not show up? I guess we'll start with Osh on that one.
Man, listen, Pat will attest. Actually, hey Pat. No, no. Yeah, I thought there was gonna be Odin's. Like
Yeah.
Odin was gonna own it
I
because
thought
it was.
I thought it was gonna look like a senior citizen center.
Yeah, for real. Like I seriously thought that everybody was gonna be like just MIA for 3 turns, and because it's Odin. You know what I mean? Like, but I was way wrong. I was expecting a lot more photo. I did think Galactus was a contender just because of his flight. And after like playing against Jose, I was like, damn, Doom might be something crazy too. So initially definitely thought it was gonna be Odin. And I was 100% surprised that that man did not show up.
I was also surprised there was no toxin. Like
Yeah,
I personally like I didn't think toxin was like top tier for this meta, but I was like I feel like he's good enough that like at least a handful of people would play him.
absolutely.
Well, you could slot in a pretty good tech package around him and then just sort of take advantage of, his team affiliation essentially. And
Mm.
that seemed viable to me. I mean, I didn't test this meta in a super aggressive competitive way, but with the testing that me and Wit did, I thought we'd see a toxin. Yeah, I mean, I thought First Evil was going to be the most played, and that ended up right, but I was wrong about most of the rest of the field.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. Like Ash said, I think that all the people that we thought were going to play Odin and like the handful of toxins instead played Galactus and Dormammu.
Now,
But
I
I thought
love
there
me
was like
some
one
Dormammu.
Dormammu, right? Wasn't there one Dormy or was there two?
There were five. It was like
Five.
It was like there were a good number of First Evils. There were a good number of Carols, and then there was like five. I think 5 or 6 Galactuses and 5 or 6 Dormammus.
Wow. I
Yeah,
did not know he showed up to work that hard.
yeah.
He's a favorite of mine, but I've not had. I mean, similar to the results that showed at Gen Con. That's kind of the results I've had with him when I've tried to play him.
Yeah, I had to respect him, but I didn't think that I would have a problem with him. And
Yeah,
until
I
I
mean he can be high rolly. You know, if he hits you hard with one of those early yellows and like chips out some important cards, that can be game right there. But that doesn't happen that often.
yeah, that definitely happened at Gen Con. I was very scared.
Hmm.
Well, let's
Ah,
move into your rounds.
yeah.
Talk about any specific stories. I don't know if you want to go round by round, or kind of go over the top of it. There are a few specific things that I want to hit the final game for sure in depth, but
Yes. Yes.
in Swiss rounds, I guess let's start with round one. Uh, what do you got?
So so round one, I went against Kendall, and he was playing First Evil. And I'm not gonna lie, it was one of those games where I was behind from the start. Um, I remember specifically what happened. He got a Thanos and a KO pile from First Evil's ability. Then he got Ego in there as well. And what I remember him doing, oh, and he got Loki. So he transformed into Loki, pitched the Surtur. He
Oh my
Surtured
gosh.
me on. Oh no, Surtur was the first card. Sorry, he got Loki a different way, but he Surtured me on turn 3. I remember because he Surtured me down to 0, and I had my 1, 2, and 3 drops on the field. But then after that, he transformed into Thanos. So when he transformed into Thanos, he powered him up twice. So he got 2 more Thanoses in the KO pile.
Oh wow.
Brutal.
When he
Brutal.
got so that was bad for me. That because of that and because of Thanos, there was nothing I can do. Like he was just KOing my guys every turn, smacking Carol. I think I leveled on turn 4, which is actually late for her, but still, it's like I couldn't overcome the oppressive state. But I ended up getting him to his last wound. But he also had COS out, and I literally did not get rid of it. Like I couldn't because of Thanos. So he had a COS the entire game. So I could only use my wilds. I couldn't use my blues either. So it was really rough uphill battle. But I got him down to his last wound, and then we went to time, and he just got me for my last wound, and that was it.
So taking a loss in round one, what's your headspace going into round two? It was this discouraging? Was this like uh, uh reinforcing of your resolve? Like how did that hit you in your headspace?
So round 2, I had a buy. And as soon as I heard I had a buy, I contemplating dropping. I was like, no, like if I lose for the rest of this tournament, I don't top. It doesn't matter when I lose. Even if I lose in the last round, there's a possibility that I don't top because round 1 loss and into a bye means you have the worst tiebreakers of the entire tournament.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. So I was like, damn. I was walking around looking at everybody playing, having a good time. I was depressed as all hell. I don't know if this is PG-13 or not, but
Oh no, this isn't. We're all drinking on this podcast. You can say whatever.
oh yeah, good shit. Oh, you up with the floodgates, bro. All right,
Normally
yeah,
we have a clean show around here, but for this one, I'm gonna put a warning up front because I knew we were planning on drinking.
absolutely. Listen, I was so fucking depressed. So I was like, I spent all this money to come to Gen Con, and I'm gonna be out after the second round. This is some bullshit. So I was looking over Bert's shoulder, and I saw he was doing pretty well. I was looking over Jose's shoulder, and he was doing pretty good. I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it. But if I do lose one more game, I am gonna drop, and I'll go enjoy the con, and I'll go sit and cry somewhere until they start werewolf. Like I was really really depressed.
I
So
was like,
what was the deciding factor there that kind of pushed you to stay in the event? Just seeing the other people enjoying playing, or what were you feeling?
In all honesty, and to tell you the truth, when I was watching Jose and he was doing like a couple of different plays, and I remember that I discussed those plays with Jose, and I was like, you know what? it would be a disservice to Patrick and Jose if I drop after 2 rounds. Like they put in almost just as much time as I did, and it would be really fucked up if I was just like, I didn't try, you know. So I didn't want to do that to my friends, and I also just like missed the game of it. I missed the competition so much. Those two coupled together, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna play it out. It is what it is. Like all the guys I came to hang out with are in this tournament anyway, so I'm just gonna play.
So what I'm hearing here is that your sense of obligation to Patrick is why you're world champion. Is that correct? So this is all it's
I
Patrick's credit. Is
mean,
that where we're at here?
No, no,
I have to give a lot of credit to these guys, Jose and Patrick. Like we really grinded a lot. There were some late night games. My girlfriend was definitely pissed off a few nights. Like,
no, and the cool thing, like I've talked to, I think I've mentioned this to Ben before, that like because I'm on the West Coast, like typically when I want to test with people on the East Coast, they're like, I'm not picking up because I'm asleep, asshole. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I get that, because like typically I can't get stuff going until like my kids are down. But the Jose keeps some late hours, and so I'd be like, yo, you want to test? It's 2 a.m. your time. He's like, yeah, I can do one or three. I'm like, Jose, you're the man.
yeah, those text messages definitely go unread to me.
Yeah. I'm like, wait, you want a game? You snore.
Well, I
No,
know
but
in the chat when you said you wanted to get together late tonight, I was like, is that going to be tomorrow for me and Oshuan here?
that's tomorrow. How do you guys
Right.
feel about like 9:30 Pacific?
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
tomorrow.
He's like, I was like, wait, Pacific? Hold me.
Mm. No, I remember I was like, I think Ben and we might have traded a text or two, the like when Gen Con was going on, and we were like, oh God, what's going on? Tell me who's winning.
Oh yeah,
Who's
I was
playing
dying.
what? And I was like, I wanted to text Osh and Jose, but I didn't want to like be like bugging them. I wanted info, but I didn't want to bug them. And then like Osh was like, "Yo, I lost," and I was like, "All right, that sucks." And then he was like, "I got to buy," and I was like, "Listen, man, like I know you're not feeling good, but like I also know that you are like you've put the time in. Like you've got a good like you are good at this game. And you've got a good deck, and I like you got 2 bad breaks. You can do it." And like he dusted himself off and he got in there.
So by the time you sit down for round three, are you still kind of tilted, or have you got your head straight? Like as you're shuffling up for that third round, are you thinking about the final table, or are you feeling like, we're just here for some kitchen table games? Like, what was your kind of competitive headspace going into that third round after taking such a bad loss in round one? And then, of course, the buy on top is icing on a crab cake for sure.
Yeah, right. So when I sat down on round three, and it's probably why I don't remember the round as much. Like I remember who I played, but I don't remember the round as much. Um, when I sat down, I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna play the cards. Like whatever the cards I have, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. I'm not. I'm gonna try to not make any mistakes and just see what happens. Right. Um, it didn't really kick into me honestly until I sat down against Jamar. I think what round was that? Was that round? I want to say was that round 6? No, it wasn't round 6. When did I face Jamar? Um, well, that's when I had
I
to
think it was like
buy.
5.
I'm looking for it now. That's Drew. Shout out to Drew, yo. Drew, he gave me a run for my money. If he played Dormammu, I think. Yeah, and I was down to 5 cards.
Okay.
He almost got me. He was
Wow.
showing 2 blues. Yeah. If I didn't run 4 fortresses, he would have got me. Because I had 2 fortresses in my last 5 cards. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was very scary. But yeah, I faced I faced Jamar in round 6. So I had just been talking to Smallwood, actually, the person I love to hate. Good, good guy though. I like after hanging out with him and really like hanging out with him. He's a really cool dude, real chill. I'm glad I got to see like the non-competitive side of
Yeah, he's
Smallwood. So
only a
shout out.
bully at the card table.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
away from the
definitely.
table,
Yeah.
he's the sweetest guy.
Yeah, he
No,
really is.
was it
So like,
midwinter? Was it midwinter this year when him and Mitch were in the finals?
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I remember. I remember there was that one play where he like Mitch like what had his Galactus out and he could call something, but he climbed, and Small was like, "I can't let you do that, man. I can't let you take that back. That's a main phase
Yeah.
power."
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, "Ooh, nice."
Yeah.
And
No, but he's
frankly,
right.
that's fair. At the
Yeah,
Yeah, because
final
that's money
table,
right there. Like
yeah.
that's yeah.
no, at the final table, that's what you do. No, yeah, but I was just like, this guy's got an eye on him.
I think I did something similar against Ryan.
Well, in
Oh
a
yeah, like
game where it's
the old face down MC Novacore play.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it.
when you've got players of the caliber of Mitch and Smallwood facing off, the game is really going to be decided on who makes the first misplay. Because both those guys play so clean all the time.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm going to outplay you, it's I'm going to make a mistake. Well, I. Those guys, both those guys are out of my league, frankly. So you enter round three, you kind of go into this flow state. You're not really focused on making the final table at this point. It's just play by play. I want to make the best play I can. And it sounds like you kind of flowed your way through three, four, and five. And it was in round six where it dawned on you, hey, I got a run going here. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, so I talked to Smallwood and he was like, an X3 is gonna make it at least one. And I was like, I we're in round six. I have one loss. I could be an X3. I actually could possibly be an X2 and guarantee myself a slot. So I was like, I think I can do this. I think I can make top in Gen Con. So,
Now, was that
mhm.
inspiring or did that come through like pressure? Like,
Oh, it was
how did that hit you?
inspiring. It was
Cool.
100% inspiring because, like, at my core, I'm a competitor. Like, I've been competing in video games ever since I was, I think I want to say 17, and I'm 36 now. So, like, I've been competing in video games nonstop. And s- looking at the odds and seeing that I have a chance just propels me to the point where I focused in and sat across from Jamar. Sorry, he's playing Galactus. I was like, boom, I need a blue. Like my opening hand has to have a blue. If it doesn't have a blue, I might get wrecked. And I drew my first hand. I remember there was one blue, and I remember there was one blue in a riot. And I was like, that's not enough. I don't think that's enough. And I mulligan shuffled it back up, and I remember my opening hand having two blues and a riot. I was like, yes,
Boom.
yes. So I started off like really, really well. Like he I made a misplay, and that's how I got my first wound. And he it was another thing where I got oh no, I didn't get a blue to pump back up, but I had already leveled. So I was a 6-6, but I didn't get a blue to get back up to 12-12, and I took another wound. And then once we got around that time, because we were both kind of like we know each other, like we play a lot, and so we were chatting it up a little bit. We were talking like we were taking our times doing the turns. Next thing we know, time was called, but the way that Jamar sees it, and I'm sorry that he sees it this way. I didn't intend it this way. He felt that towards the end of the game, I started to play a little slow. And it didn't really dawn on me that time was a factor because I had multiple options in my hand and I was like, there's a lot of stuff I can do here. I was trying to figure out how to get the last two wounds on him rather than how to survive the next couple of turns. You know what I mean? Because the style of my deck was just full frontal, smack you in your face 100%. And it got to a point where I couldn't do it. So I had to find a way to try to get to him. And it took a lot longer than I wanted it to. But at the end of that game, we had a judge over and he mentioned that I had slow played and I apologized and I told him I was like, hey, look, listen, this is where we're at. Like you have to heal and stun me, and then we go into sudden death. I'm giving you free reign. If you have a way to do it, and then we'll continue this game. If not, we might as well just like move on because we're literally wasting everyone else's time. and he understood. Like he definitely understood that he needed a lot to do what he wanted to do. And I also had outs in my hand too. Like I didn't want to like completely demoralize him or anything, you know what I'm saying? But it was
Sure.
like one of those instances where it's like, damn, I hate that that win came the way it did. But if we had the time to complete it, like I think I still would have won.
I don't think anybody wants to win with the clock,
Yeah,
almost
definitely
as
not.
much as nobody wants to lose by the clock. Like both sides of that coin kind of suck. I mean, obviously one sucks worse, but
Right.
generally speaking, I-
Hard hitting commentary from Mr. Ben.
yeah, yeah. uh, if somebody, it's hard to put your finger on exactly what constitutes slow play. Like if you're behind and somebody's playing slower than you want them to, that feels like slow play in the moment.
Mhm.
And that's probably kind of a valid feeling, but I mean, I don't know that that necessarily means for sure the other person is doing that, you know?
Right. And it sucks too. It's like my first Gen Con that I went to, it was the Gen Con of Ripley
Oh
or
gosh.
Thanos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was playing Thanos and this guy, he was real chatty and I was new to the card scene. So I was like, oh, okay. When you play cards, you chat and you laugh. Ha 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 ha. Next
I'm
thing I
making a
know, yeah,
friend.
right? Like next thing I know, he stunned my Thanos once and he wins because of Ripley. I was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that opened my eyes to it, and I was like, I never want that to happen again. So, and I obviously never wanted to do it to anybody. So that's why, like, when he felt that way, I felt kind of bad.
All right. So let's move on to well, what are we on? Round seven?
Yeah, Sean Phillips.
Oh my.
So I did not consider Blob a thing at all. I considered John a thing. So it's like whatever deck he's playing, I'm like,
I agree with your
something's up,
assessment on that
right?
situation.
So when I said across from him, I saw Blob. I was like, wait, Blob? Hold on, what does he do? And I read him and I was like, oh, he's the hard counter to Carol.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. So I had to like really play smart against him. And my theory was if I forced everything out of his hand early, then later on when I'm already built up, because like my symbiotes are still gonna stay, right? Like he probably doesn't have great low drops. Probably he's not running a one at all. So if I activate 50 states, I can get ahead. So I was like, screw it. Turn one, I had the blue. I was like, here we go, pump, let's go. And he didn't discard from his hand. I think he saw uh two of the colors that he needed. So like it was one of them was Asteroid M. He did get the helmet, but that didn't matter. I knocked it off the very next turn. Uh, yeah, it was actually kind of rough. I think that was a six turn and out game.
Do you think that his deck didn't show up to play in that particular match, or that your build of Carol was just tuned as such that what he was trying to do was ineffective?
Yeah, he said it afterwards. He was like, "Yeah, your deck is super aggro. This deck is meant to just sit back." And I was like, "Yeah, like the what he was recruiting, I was just like, yeah, he's just trying to like stall out." And I think that my version of Carol was so hyper aggro that I had multiple characters on the field that can just stun blob without any help.
So
So
I don't remember, were you around during the era where the John Phillips Kingpin deck hit the scene?
so I think I might have heard about it. I definitely stopped before it happened, but I heard about it. But Kingpin was like my guy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I loved Kingpin. He was like my favorite MC when he got his level three power. I was just like, yes. But I
Well,
heard about John. I knew
the
about him
reason I
coming
bring
back.
that up is if you're sitting across the table from John and he's playing a slow kind of defensive deck, you've got to be like just pants shittingly terrified that there's some kind of combo that nobody in the world has ever thought of that's gonna do 37 wounds to you all in one goddamn turn.
Yeah, and I know John, right? Like heard of his accolades. They told me he was a Kingpin master. Like we faced each other on the 3v3 online. Like I mean, I don't want to throw any shade, but my Kingpin deck did beat his in the best of 2 or 3, but whatever.
Oh no! Just
Like
in case anyone forgot.
right, but I was actually genuinely scared when I sat across from his blob. I was just like, I don't know what he's gotten here. I have that was like the deck that I had no idea what was in it. None at all.
So you move through this moment, and there has to be almost like a feeling like you've gotten over the hill at this point, right? Like you're now
Yep.
locked in to be at least X and two. Worst case scenario, you're gonna have three losses, but you still have a chance of making it. How did that impact your headspace going into the last round? We are on the last round now, right? Eight?
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I
okay.
was going in, I knew I was going against Smallwood because he was undefeated. I knew that he was running Carol, and I was just like, damn, it's a rough battle. It's a really rough battle. It's whoever gets the blues, like whoever has the great draws. And then I remembered I played against him in OKC, and I was just like, I remember he played fast because he knew what he was doing. Like he calculated what he wanted to do, and he was able to perform that. Like no, he was able to do that no matter how you play. Like he always knew what was going to happen. So I was in the back of my mind. I was like, I might need to be a little bit unpredictable against him. Um, but when I sat across from him, and in my head, I was like, damn, it's a mirror match. He's probably gonna win the die roll. I think I won the die roll. I was excited about that. I was like, all right, I need a blue. I need a blue. And I think against Smallwood, I actually got 250 stakes right and a blue in my opening hand.
Pretty sweet.
I was like, yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
I was like, let's go. So
Wow, wow,
um
wow.
yeah, it was great. And that drew me a symbiote codex too. So I was like, yo, I'm cooking because with the codex, I'll be one over him. And if has a power up or he plays the plot twist that gives me -1 depending on superpowers, I'm like, that's cool. I'm gonna go down, but I get back up with my counters and we're gonna fight again. So I was like set. I was like, I think I'm good. And turn one, he set a green, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I
Ooh, they're
was
looking
like,
at. Mhm.
yeah. I was like, oh. So you mean my second blue means that you never stun me until you get two blues and I run out of juice.
Do you remember if he mulliganed that game?
He did.
Oh, jeez. That's even
Yeah.
worse. That's a terrible feeling.
Yeah.
I mean, not
It
that anybody
is.
should ever feel sorry for Smallwood.
I did not feel sorry for him in the moment, but
Yeah.
like afterwards, I was just like, damn, that was actually a really bad beat. But
So did that
it
actually
didn't.
set the tone for the game? Like, did it play out the way that a turn one green in the row would sort of predict, or was he able to recover from that and really make a fight of it?
So I was still pretty intimidated because, like, you're sitting across from Smallwood, right? You know Smallwood can pull crap out of his ass. Sorry,
Hmm.
we're not PG-13. He can pull shit out of his ass because that's just who he is. He's Smallwood. So I was sitting across from him, and I took my turn too. Obviously, I stunned him. He flipped back up. He drew his two, flipped through his cards as Smallwood always does. You know, and
Yeah,
then
super fast.
right, and then he set another green, and I was like,
No.
"Oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm getting this." I was like,
No.
"Yeah, no way he's catching back up with two greens." And I don't think he recruited on turns 2, 3. I think he might have recruited a 4, but I don't think he recruited turns 2 and 3.
Wow.
I steamrolled him, and then I think after turn like a quick turn four. He drew his two, and he was just like, "Ah, nah, that's it." And then he scooped because he knew like
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing he wasn't going to be able to survive long enough to try to pull something out of his ass because every single turn, like my symbiotes were rocking. I had Praetor was my four, but like I had a might makes right on Agony, and she was just smacking everybody left. Carol didn't even attack. I'm pretty sure Agony like gave most of the wounds. So yeah, it was bad.
So, Patrick, sitting on
Mhm.
the sidelines on the other side of the country, what was kind of going through your headspace as like Ash said, you put a lot of work in for these decks as well. Uh, you're following this from afar. I know we texted a little like, "Oh my God, we need some results," but kind of like walk us through what you were feeling throughout the course of the day.
The funny thing was like I was like I kept being like, yo, what's happening? And then like, they're in the games and so they wouldn't respond. And then I as closely as I was watching my phone, I still was like, going about the weekend, like, with the kids, with like, working around the house and stuff. And then I get an update. I realized that I got an update. Oh shit. I like Osh won. I'm like, oh, tell me about it. And then like, hello, hello. Ah, he's in his next game.
Yeah.
Like it's like it was like having a conversation with someone via letter back in like World War II. Like like so much has happened since you sent your letter. um no, but yeah, obviously it was a bit of a rocky start, but then he was like, won this one, won this one, won this one, and like even when he wasn't necessarily texting me, like I was looking at like the sheets, and I was like trying to beautiful mind see the matrix piece together who was winning based on like what tables were shuffling around and
Oh,
stuff.
sure.
But
Yeah.
I was like, I think Osh is winning. And then like Jose was giving me some updates too. And like I remember he was like, all right, I won a couple in a row, got Smallwood next. I was like, all right, you can do it, man. He's like, I lost to Smallwood. I was like, shucks, I'm sorry, man. But I'm like, you just rally, like keep going, you can do it too. And then like Osh gets the end and he's like, I'm going to get Smallwood. I was like, oh no, like both my teammates, it's gonna be a twofer, a double headshot. And then Osh is like, I won. I was like, no, this is it. This is it. And it's like it's just I mean it is Osh knows like going into top eight with the top seed, so you get to choose priority. I mean that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to the end of the day. We figure out who top eight is. Deck lists get revealed. When you get a chance to look over the rest of the top eight, how did you feel about your deck? Was there anything that you felt like you had discovered that other people had missed? Were there card inclusions that other people had that, in retrospect, you would have liked to have? Like, how did you feel your deck stacked up just looking over the deck list on paper?
So I was actually very surprised at the other Carol builds. Um, I thought that the symbiote package was obvious for Carol because turns like you literally would win in turn six. Um, I didn't expect any MCs that had more than six health to stand out. So that's why I was like, six and done. Don't need to worry about anything else. And if you fade like two wounds, that's why Storm was my top. So their builds, I was like, if I go up against them, I don't think I'll have a problem unless they can like literally ramp with the teleport. Um, First Evil, their list didn't surprise me. I was just like, yeah, that's exactly what I think the First Evil deck would be doing at this tournament. Like Surtur, go down to whatever, and then just win because you can't get stunned. You would have to like lethal, you have to lethal in order to get her back on the field, and not a lot of decks could do that. Um, I was actually really surprised that Small was built too, and I was just like, wow, that's really interesting. And the fact that he like won out told me that he played a lot of photo decks because I think he was running Man Thing, and that hurts photo a lot. So
Yeah.
yeah, that like really that's probably what really stood out is that nobody that was playing Carol thought of the symbiote package. So
So, as you looked at your matchup, did you take any of the time? Because for people who aren't familiar with it, the you have some time in between Swiss rounds and top eight typically,
Oh
but
yeah.
on this particular event, you had even more time than normal. Did you use that time to grab some of the deck lists that would have been on your path to the final table and do some testing? Did you practice those matchups at all, or was it more, okay, I'm just gonna take a step back from this and then come in fresh on the day of the event?
Let me tell you about my weekend. All right, so um I think it was Friday, yeah, Friday night after Swiss, went back to Smallwood's Airbnb. Like it was a bunch of people with Caleb, Smallwood, Bert, um, the guy played in the 6th round, Drew. Um, it was just a bunch of people. We were all just hanging out, having a good time. We were drinking. We played Legendary. Um, I was there with them till about I want to say close to yeah, I want to say close to 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Like just hanging out, you know what I'm saying? Because that's what the con's for. Like you go to enjoy it with people,
Mhm.
and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to enjoy the con for the next day. So, um, what happened that night really spooked me. So in the cab on my way back to the hotel I was staying at, my cab was involved in an accident on the highway.
What?
Whoa!
Yeah, so the car that we were directly behind hit another car that was stopped on the highway, like going full speed, at least 60 miles per hour.
Oh my
The
God.
car that was stopped that got hit burst into flames. Um,
Oh
and
man.
the car that hit it was spinning out in front of us, and the Uber driver had to drive through the debris, dodged the spinning car, and like pulled over on the side of the road because his car was damaged. So
This is the crazy, this is insane, man.
Mhm.
yeah, and I have a video and pictures as well because when I looked back, the guy whose car was spinning was out of his car and he almost walked into traffic who seemingly didn't give a fuck that there was a car on fire and somebody is obviously hurt on the highway. So after the Uber driver pulled over, I hopped out of the Uber and I was running back to them. I crossed the highway and I ended up helping the guy who jumped out of the car, and the two people that were in the car that got hit that burst into flames got out. So they were on the other side, and like the firefighters came, paramedics, the whole nine, like crazy stuff, right?
How long were you staying there? Like, did you have to like give a statement to the police? Like, how involved was this?
Yeah, so I gave a statement to the police. They have my contact information. They've actually been like hitting me up because it's an active investigation. They think the guy who was driving is drunk. But
Yeah,
yeah, more than
it seems
likely.
that way.
Um,
I'm a
I
bet
was,
man.
yeah, I was actually out there till about 4 a.m. and I didn't get back to my hotel till 4:30. And I slept. I took some libations, if you will, so I can go to sleep. And when I
Yeah,
woke up, it
calm
was
calm the nerves. Yeah.
yeah, some sage. I burned some
Yeah.
sage. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I
Okay.
was out like a light, and I woke up at 9:30, and I was just like, "Yeah, yeah, no, I can't go back to sleep. That's it.
Wait, AM or
That's
PM?
9 a.m." I
Oh
woke
wow!
up.
Oh my
I
goodness!
got back. Yeah, I got back to the hotel at 9:30. I'm sorry, at 4:30 a.m. Woke up at 9:30, and I promptly got dressed and went to the con.
Yikes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what
So
you're there
like,
for, I guess. But still, holy smokes, man!
yeah, it shook me. It really did. And like, I walked over to the upper deck area, and I was like, I think it was the cube or something was going on. I don't remember what's going on. It was before the tournament though, and I was just walking around. I was like kind of spaced out, and I was just like thinking to myself, like, "Yo, that could have been our cab. Like that could have been my Uber. Like this is crazy. It was really really crazy, and I didn't want to. play versus and missed the con. So I actually just I walked the entire day. That whole entire day. I was tired. But yeah, I actually ended up playing werewolf that night until probably 2 a.m.
As one does at a con.
Yeah, right.
Mhm.
Like so, I was exhausted when I showed up for top eight, but I was like, you know what? I gotta play against Caleb, and he's an amazing player. I gotta focus. So I was just like, let's. I put the trust in myself, and I put the trust in my deck. Let's do this. But
So
definitely
not
on
a
the
lot
way
of
to sorry,
preparation between
none at
Swiss
all
rounds and
actually.
top
So,
eight.
so what I'm hearing is not a lot of preparation. Oh, but by the way, Ash, I'm sorry you went through that, man, and props to you for getting out the car to check on the person.
Yeah, that's one of those things, right? It's like if something would have happened to dude, like I could have that kind of I would have felt like that would have been on me, you know.
Yeah.
I
So
mean, and
so
presumably
it's
the guy was concussed in addition to whatever state he was in that led to the accident in the first place. Like that's
uh, yeah,
wow, man.
absolutely,
I mean, if
yeah,
anything, this
absolutely,
whole story adds up to anti-preparation. Uh,
yeah, right.
it's like
I will
I'm
say this
about to
though, like
compete at the highest level. What can I do to make sure I put as many obstacles in front of myself as possible?
so many. One thing I did do though is on the cab on the way to top eight, I like really studied his deck and I realized that it was gonna be a battle. Like I didn't have the advantage of going first. If he got some characters from the bottom, I was screwed. Um, and on top of that, if he surgered me, it wa- and then I had continuous flashbacks of when I was playing the first round of the tournament of Thanos just wrecking my shit. So it was rough. Like I went into it knowing what I was up against, knowing that I didn't eat. Like I didn't eat dinner the previous night and I didn't eat breakfast. So after I got out of the cab that only wanted to do the speed limit, like literally did not go over 20 miles per hour the entire trip. Ugh. After I got out the cab, luggage in tow, I ran in and I stopped to get a sandwich.
Mhm.
And I literally got to the table 2 minutes before 10. And I remember Smallwood saying, real inconsiderate, Osh. I was
Fair.
very fair. I was like, damn, he's
All right, so
right.
how bad were the nerves? Were you like feeling it, or was there enough PTSD from the events of Friday night or whatever night it was that you were just there to play like how in your head were you about this?
I was completely in my head. I thought Caleb had it, but I was locked in. Like I really had to focus. Like it took a lot out of me to focus that hard, considering like everything that happened. Um, I wanted to ask a judge if I can put my headphones on, but I know that that's like frowned upon, and I didn't want I didn't want Caleb to think that I was disrespecting him by putting my headphones on because I don't think he knew what happened the couple of nights before. Like I only told like
Sure.
three people, so like I really really had to hyper focus on the game,
Like, did you want to
and
put headphones in to like listen to music for like a
yeah,
meditative kind of thing, or just to block out the
absolutely.
noise of the con? Oh,
No,
okay.
just to for a meditative thing. Like when I listen to
Sure.
music, it helps me, it calms me, and it allows me to think better. Um, I don't know, I'm
Yeah,
just
I
weird
feel
like
you
that.
on that one, man.
Yeah,
100%.
but I knew it would be disrespectful, so I was just like, you know what, let me not do that. But I don't think I talked much at all during our match. Um, Caleb's a great player, and I hope he didn't think that I was like disrespecting him when I was like, pointing with cards and stuff. But it was the point. I was so focused on the game that if I would have tried to speak, everything else would have stopped.
Sure.
So it was like that rough of a match, and I for the life of me, I can't remember if we played 2 or 3 games. Like I know how I won the 2 games I won, I don't remember if we played a third game. And it bugs me to this day because I felt
Wow.
like we did because we were playing our game for a long time.
We can probably just message him and ask him.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we could get to the bottom of this mystery, but I think the more interesting thing is it the I mean, maybe trauma is not the right word to apply to it, but like you went through some shit, man. Like
Yeah,
mentally,
it was rough.
physically, the lack of nutrition, the lack of sleep, like all these things added up together. The fact that you're sitting down at the table and can't even remember if you played 3 games, like I think that says a lot that you were able to come out on top of that matchup, considering how, I mean, some of this was out of your control and some of this was your own choices of stacking the deck against yourself, sort
Right.
of.
Yeah. I
So
will
when you
say, like,
cleared that match, did you feel like a sense of relief? Like, did you feel like, oh, okay, got through that? What was your headspace at coming through that?
So I think, wait, Pat, what were you going to say? Because I think what you were going to say is what I'm about to say.
I beg to differ. I think you were going to say something different, but let's see how it goes. No, I was going to say, this is the first I'm hearing of all this, by the way. I had no idea that Osh is
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I
listen,
didn't
I'm going
tell
to
you.
have some highway antics, and then I'm going to stay out real late the next night, and then I'm going to try to roll in there. But I think obviously to take nothing away from Caleb and from take nothing away from the first evil, we did test that matchup a good amount, and Osh knew what to do. I think
Mm.
one of the reasons it was so rough is because his brain was electrified.
Yeah, his deep sense of obligation to his testing partners really comes through in this in this string of choices.
Gotta do it.
Yeah. Oh man, for real.
Was there anything notable about that? I mean, it sounds like it was a little bit of a blur, so maybe that would be a hard thing to pull out. But were there any particular plays, any decisions that kind of stand out in your mind, or was it all just kind of like the blender of playing against one of the best players in the world for some pretty high stakes?
So the things that stand out, and he's probably gonna really hate me for like pointing this out. Um, the first game I won, he had the option he had the blue, and he had a photo Captain Marvel, obviously, and I'm not obviously. I mean, he had photo Captain Marvel and he had Groot, but he was on his last wound. I think he played towards the stay down, and he chose Groot instead of choosing Captain Marvel, which would have made sense, but we got to look at each other's list, and he knew that I played Massacre, and he didn't see it all game. So I think he didn't take that into account when he went to go get Groot instead of getting Carol Danvers because I actually didn't have anything on the board that could have stunned her because of her ferocious
And dodge.
and dodge. Yeah, that's the big one. Because my that was the game that I didn't have a blue at the end of the game. It was just a regular Carol 6/6.
Wow.
That's a sweaty moment.
Yeah, and I think he surgered me. I think game 3 he didn't surgery me, but he definitely like because this is why I'm saying like I had to have played 3 games because he definitely surgered me twice, and he didn't surgery me on the third game, so it had to have been games 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you get through this grinder with stacks. Did you spend any amount of time looking down the road of top eight? Like, did you think about the deck list of who you might have to face in top four, or was it kind of it took everything I could do just to get to the table on time, and you were just kind of rolling with it? Like, where were you at coming out of top eight, moving into top four?
So me and Caleb's game took a really long time, but Bert and Jose's game took longer. So after our game ended, like I literally hugged Caleb because I was like, that was like the best game I've ever played. Like that was fucking amazing. It was great. It was like a really great game. I wish I recorded it. And I looked down at the table and I see that Bert and Jose are still playing. I was like, fuck. I was in the back of my mind, I was like, yo, I don't want to face either one of them. I completely forgot that I faced the winner of that. And I
Yeah.
immediately looked for Smallwood's game, and I was like, "Oh, they're done." Looking around, couldn't see Smallwood. I found him, and I was like, "Yeah, so what happened in your game?" He was like, "Nah, he got it. I didn't draw any blues." I was like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah.
So when I get to top 8, I'm not really worried about the deck I'm playing against because I know it's going to be a good deck, right? Like you made it
Sure.
to top 8, your deck is obviously a great contender. I'm more worried about the person I'm playing against. So I didn't want to see Smallwood, period. Like if I saw Smallwood at the top table, I'll be happy going home second. I didn't want to see him at all. But the two people I definitely did not want to see was Bert and Jose.
Yeah.
Like with Bert, like we've been playing against each other for years. We know each other's play styles. We can literally call each other's turns if we know what's in the hand, right? Sometimes Bert knows what's in my hand. It's kind of fucking scary.
He's
Uh,
very good at hand reading.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like we've been playing for years, so he knows. Like he knows exactly how to read my moves. I don't want to play against that. On the other hand, Jose literally helped me build my deck. Like he knows exactly how to play against it. He knows exactly what's going to happen if we go up against each other. He thinks that he thinks that I have an advantage, but I actually don't. Doom could actually get me if he does it right.
Hmm.
So I was actually very worried about playing either one of them. But if I'm gonna be 100% honest, I was like, Bert knows me too well. I don't want to play Bert. He'll knock me out, guaranteed.
Yeah.
At least against Jose, I have a chance. That was literally my mindset.
Were you watching the game as it unfolded? Like, were you invested in the outcome, or were you
Absolutely.
trying to like rehydrate and get something to eat? Like,
Like after the game with me and Caleb, I walked away for a little bit and I ate like half of the sandwich. It was dry as fuck though. I didn't grab any mustard. That was my bad. Uh,
hashtag
I
misplay.
Us throwing shade at the
right.
Gen Con fooderies.
The day before though, I had the pizza and it was bomb, but that pizza line was mad long, so I had to grab that stale ass sandwich. But uh, like I wolfed half of it down, and that's when I came back and I saw that Bert and Jose were still playing, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm sitting right here." I sat next to Bert, made sure I gave him his space, and I was just watching because I wanted to see, since I can see Bert's hand, I was like, I want to see how he's playing with First Evil. I want to see what he's doing in the certain situations where he knows he's about to get stunned. Because me and Bert read the board kind of the same. Like we know what's on the board, we know what's the possibility of you having certain things. So we operate in a way to bait out stuff. But in the first Evil deck, I don't know how he was doing it. So I wanted to really see how he was playing against Doom because I know Jose was going to be trying to smack him every turn because he could.
Mhm.
And on the flip side, I did watch behind Jose a little bit, and I noticed a couple of plays that he could have did a lot differently to be more aggressive, and that he was playing really reserved. And I was like, oh, huh. So he's holding back because he probably wants to get to DP to guarantee the win. Interesting. So I got a sense of how they were playing their decks, and that's actually like it sucks, but it's one of the things I don't like. Like if you're at the top table and you finish before another player, you shouldn't be able to watch their match because
Mhm.
you get a lot more information watching how people play. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a solution for that. Like,
Yeah, me either. Which it
I,
sucks, right?
yeah, I don't know that we would necessarily want our judges to be acting as bouncers and like shooing people away
Yeah.
necessarily. But I mean, I see your point. Like, you're not incorrect. I just don't know how to solve for it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no, there's no X equals Y for this one. This is just one of those things where it's like it exists, deal with it, you know?
Sure, sure. So this game wraps up, and you end up going into top four. How confident are you moving into top four?
So not gonna lie, I was a little nervous when I was playing against Jose. Like we still chatted it up. I had some food in my system after that. So, we were chatting and he said to me, he was like, "You're definitely gonna beat me." And I and
Oh, what a
Dude, he
statement!
said that to
What a
me at
statement!
midwinter too. He was like, "Oh, dude, you're gonna beat me for sure." I'm like, "I don't know, man." Like,
right? Like I just thought of it as head games. I was like, nah, we tested way too much for him to be completely confident about that. He's wild for that.
I mean, there are some people where the idea of like I'm the underdog is really motivating and like inspiring, and like they kind of need. I mean, I don't know if this is the case for Jose. I'm totally speculating, but I could see that being like a useful tool to kind of bring out your A game to think, okay, I'm behind, like before the cards
Yeah.
even get drawn. That could be a thing.
Yeah, I get that. Like you're what do they call them? Ladder climbers, right? Like you see a tall ass ladder and you're like, I got this, and you just head to the top. I get that, but like I play mind games too. Like I'm not gonna fall for that.
Sure,
like
sure,
like we're gonna sit across from each other and we're gonna throw these 16 cards, right? Because it's like if it's Carol versus Doom, it's literally a race to turn 6. Because if I get ahead, then you can't come back. Like my supporting character, even though you have the machine, you probably aren't going to have it for one turn unless you load up on that turn. Like I was actually really scared of a turn 5 um machine, Herbie, and what was it, Night Watch. That actually like really scared me because I was like, I on my turn 5, if I don't have either somebody who has lethal or I don't get the gob and the green, I might not be able to get over those guys.
Mm.
So that really like stung, but I think he whiffed on yellows in one of our games, so that was just a wash. Like I kind of felt bad
sure.
for that one. Um, and then yeah, I got the win. When I pulled the win, I was like, holy shit. When I looked over and I saw who was playing, I was like, I think I could win. Holy fuck, I could win this tournament. I could win Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's like when the winning mindset really set in.
did you have a preference on your final table opponent? It was Ryan versus who did Ryan play in top four? I can't remember now.
Matt?
Let me see. Is
He,
so he beat Smallwood, right? So he was eighth.
yeah, so that would have been Matt, I think.
Yeah, he definitely beat Smallwood. Like he beat Smallwood. So
Well, Ryan in top eight was 4-5 because him and his dad were seats 4 and 5.
yes.
So
Right, right,
Smallwood
right,
played
right.
Matt, I think, in top eight. I should have had this stuff in my notes. I apologize. Um,
Hold on,
I think
Caleb,
it was Matt. I think it was Matt.
Robert. Yeah, it was Matt. I'm looking at his list right now. It was Matt.
so between those two players, kind of the same as I was asking with Bert and Jose, did you have a preference on which player came out of it? I know you said the deck list wasn't quite as important as the player once you get to top cut. Um, what was your feel of the field there, and was there somebody you were kind of rooting for?
So honestly, I know Ryan, and I'm like, we played against each other. I know he's a tight player. And I didn't know Matt at all. So I looked at his list because we were able to take photos of the list. And as they were playing, I realized that if I got above him, there was no way he was going to beat me. Like, he had one out, it was Terrax. I didn't care about Lilith because my guys have symbiosis. Um, he was only running 350 states and two might makes right. I was like, and he was on four weird superheroes. I was like, yo, I think if I go against him, I would if I go against this deck, I would just run over it. Like it wouldn't even be an issue. So I was like kind of rooting for him. And plus I have like the surprise factor, right? Because we don't know each other. So he doesn't know if I'm some rando, right? And if he
Mm.
doesn't have the competitive drive that I have, he might make more mistakes and I can capitalize on those mistakes. Like I was really just thinking about how I can outplay this guy without even knowing who the hell he is. Like,
Yeah.
like that could have came back to backfire really hard, you know what I mean?
So
Yeah.
just to for anybody who's listening, Matt is 1/3 of the Deconstruct the Universe podcast. So he has been around for a while, but him and Justin and Patrick Murray tend to have a more casual approach to the game. I don't think it would be insulting to say that he would have self-described himself as a casual player. I mean, he doesn't get to do that anymore after this
Oh
performance
yeah,
at
of
Gen
course
Con.
not.
But
He
up
got to
until
top
this,
four.
yeah, dude. And he got to top four over Smallwood. Like that's
Right.
huge.
And I
Whoa,
still respected
whoa.
that too. Go ahead, Pat. What'd you say?
No, I was saying I was just doing basically sound effects. I was saying, "Whoa, what?"
Yeah, right. Like he beat Smallwood, so like that's still in my head. As soon as I see them sitting down, I was like, well, if he comes out of this, then he's legit, right? Because Ryan went to the finals at OKC, and now he's here at the top four, so obviously he's legit. If he beats Smallwood and Ryan, then I gotta respect this dude. You know what I mean?
But because he didn't beat Ryan, you don't have to now? Is that what you're saying?
I still respect him.
Nah, I'm
You
kidding.
got to
I'm
go through
kidding.
hell to get to top four, man.
Ben doesn't let people get away with shit like that on his
Yeah.
interviews, man. Like,
Right?
No, respect for all the players. I
Oh, yeah, respect for every single player except for Smallwood.
Fair enough.
As a person, respect you 100%. As a player, I hate your guts.
He's a bully at the table, man, without a doubt. Uh,
Absolutely.
so top four wraps up. Ryan comes out on top of that.
Yep.
Looking at his list now, his Carol did use the teleport. His plan was to get to that Dark Phoenix. I know part of his calculation was that the field would be photo heavy. So looking at these lists, how did you feel analyzing the list moving into the final table?
So when I was picking apart his list, I thought to myself, if he has a defender on the field, I need to be careful. But then I saw that he was running Night Watch. So I was like, in the back of my head, he won't recruit Night Watch unless he has the spell, right? Unless he has the teleport. And also, the three drop, if he wasn't showing a blue, he probably has the spell, right?
yeah.
I'm sorry, the spell, the plot twist.
Yeah, teleport, sure.
Yeah. So I was like, if I could play around like attacking his defenders, then maybe I have a chance of like really of just beating him. So I remember there was, and I also know for a fact that like when you're ramping, you want to ramp on turns 2, turns 4, and turn 5. You never want to ramp on turn 3 if it's not like a 3 drop ramp card. You know what I mean? Because you're skipping over a chance of you to ramp twice. So I know that like turns 1 was a wash. I could do whatever I want turn 1. Turn 2, if he had a defender on the field, I think there was a game where he actually had a face up defender and I didn't attack. Um like I think I stunned everybody else except for the defender and he kind of looked at it and he was like, "Huh." So he understood that I knew that he was trying to ramp and I needed to kill him in 6. I couldn't let him like and I counted the ramps too. I think the first game he ramped once, but I went first. So I still had the advantage, and I was like, I can't let him ramp again because if I do, he's going into turn 9 when I'm going into turn 7, and I lose. So it was pretty interesting, and that one time like pretty confirmed that if I would have attacked that defender, he would have teleported, and that would have been my doom.
So, do you think that the teleport package it was? I guess what as far as the field that showed up. So, of course, you built the best deck that you could based on the field you predicted. Given the field that showed up, do you think the more aggressive Carol was the way to go? If you had the ability to change cards within your deck, is there any particular inclusions you would want or cut out, or would you leave the deck as it is? I mean, obviously it came out on top, so there's some confirmation bias there. But with the gift of hindsight, um, were there things that if you knew exactly what the field was prior to the event, are there adjustments you would have made in your deck?
Uh, in all honesty, knowing what was at the tournament, I would have ran the teleport Carol. Reason being is because I think the race to DP was the right call. I did not what I did not expect, and I don't think anybody expected, was so many Carols because in my mind, there was no there was no counter hate unless you threw in like specific cards. There was no counter hate, so you were going to keep your counters regardless. That's why I thought the symbiote package was the obvious package. So if you run teleport and you call +1/+1 counters, like it's literally like my Carol can my I'm sorry, my DP can beat up everybody on your field because you can't get counters anymore.
Mm.
So in that
That was
final
just my
match,
theory.
do you
Yep.
did you feel like even if the teleport package was better to like get through Swiss rounds and kind of better against the overall field, how did you feel as far as your deck versus Ryan's deck there at the final table?
I felt really confident in my deck. Like, and it's no disrespect to Ryan's deck. Like when I said across, I was like, if I get up on blues, or if I get up on like counters, he's never going to be able to catch up because there's nothing in his deck prior to DP that can stun my Carol if I'm already ahead. Like I
Mhm.
knew that Carol was going to win every single fight, even if it was like he had a blue and I had a blue. I still have symbiote codex.
Mhm.
So like, or I still have might makes right, and my symbiotes would knock the counters off of him, and he has to build them again, right? So
Hmm.
I went into it very, very like thinking that holy shit, like I'm about to win Gen Con because I ran the symbiote package and because his Carol can't get bigger than mine. I was actually like choking him now. No, I was actually like really like not to the point of cocky because it's still Ryan, right? Like he can still pull some
Absolutely.
shit out of his ass. He could ramp turn 2 and then ramp on turn 4 and then all of a sudden take the lead of the game, right? Like that can definitely happen. But after um after he only got the ramp off, I think twice in the first game and I was ahead, I was like, okay, I think I think I got this. Like I really think I got this. And the second game, my deck just said, "Yo, I love you, bro. Here's everything you need." Like my deck really loved me on the second game. Like it was practically a reach around at some points. Like it gave me literally every card I needed every turn.
That is too funny, man.
I mean, sometimes you just draw the nuts. That's all there
Yeah,
is to it.
yeah. I had like I think it was 2 games where I drew the nuts, and that one just happened to be it.
Well, that kind of brings me to the end of the uh, prepared outline that I had. I suppose I am curious, are there any particular cards that stuck out as like really important to the meta that surprised you on the day of the event? Was there anything that stuck out in testing as, hey, this could be a threat, but we didn't see it? I guess just was there anything remarkable either about the event itself or testing with regard to specific cards uh, that would be interesting?
Absolutely. I was 100% surprised that there were no Odins. Uh, like none. I was like, wow, he's a threat. Nobody chose him. Um, Star of the Day obviously is Hella. Like she should not exist in this format. Like this format is meant so everybody can stay around for a couple of turns, right? And
Mm-hmm.
she just says, "No, you stop." Everybody stops. Um, there was a point where me and Jose were testing, and he made a very good point that if if I'm playing symbiotes, all he has to do is put a wound on each one, and then on turn 5, like it's like a gamma bomb, you know.
Oh wow, yeah.
So he played towards that a lot when he was playing Doom, and I remember there was an interaction in our game where like I think I saved Agony from getting a wound. No, not our game. It must have been Caleb, where I saved Agony. Like I pumped Agony with a power up, a symbiote codex, and something else because I was like, I don't want a wound on Agony. Agony's gonna get huge. She's gonna be my X factor for this game, and I wasted all my resources on her and saved her because I knew he had Hella on turn 5. Like she just broke the game. Like she shouldn't have been in that game.
Yeah, she is kind of a
Yeah,
format deranging card for sure.
yeah. She gives everybody on your side lethal. Like that's just not fair. Um, I was actually really surprised that there weren't more Galactuses and Galactuses, and I was also really surprised that I feel like the Galactuses in the room didn't respect Carol because they know that if they can power up to be a 6/6, like they can fight her and get her counters off, and then you can just completely stomp her face in, right? Because it's probably unlikely that they have 3 blues. So I was actually really surprised that they weren't wanting to power up, but Jamar did run Terrax, and that gave me a really run for my money. That's why I took so long to finish the last couple of turns. And Terrax sucks. Like,
Yeah, he's been pretty powerful the last couple formats.
yeah, like he's low key like the worst thing I could see on the other side of the table. And as
Well,
far as like,
oh, sorry,
sorry,
go
go ahead.
ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, as far as changing stuff in my deck, yeah, I would ditch Morloon and I would add Terrax, 100%.
Fair, fair.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that we didn't touch on that you guys want to hit before we wrap things up here?
The only thing was my reaction when I saw that when Osh beat Caleb and then Jose beat Bert, I was like, Civil War. I was like, oh no.
So let's put you on the spot here, Pat. Who are you rooting for in that matchup?
Oh no. It's like when you have more than one kid. You don't divide your love, you multiply it. I was like, whatever one of my kids wins this wrestling match, I'm gonna be happy.
That is the diplomatic response, no doubt. All right, well, I guess that kind of brings us here to the end. I'm going to throw it to you, Osh. Is there anything you want to plug, promote, shout out here before we call it a night?
Absolutely. So shout out to Thunder Pals. That's my like umbrella team. Obviously, Let's Get Dangerous is my versus team. Never gonna change. We gotta get Hector. We gotta get Hector back up in here, man. He's been MIA for like 22 years. Like he needs to come out of retirement. Uh,
Agreed.
right. Shout out to Jose. Shout out to literally every single person that played versus during Gen Con, and 100% shout out to Veets, Mark, all of our judges. Um, and also shout out to Build Phase and Buckeye, bro. Like, thanks for the practice. Like,
I'm glad you appreciated that. That was the intent of that event, you know?
absolutely, yo. Honestly, if I didn't enter Build Phase, I wouldn't have picked Carol.
Oh. So what we've come to is I'm the one who gets the credit. Is that what you're saying?
You know what? I'll give you about 5%.
That's more than I deserve. Well, same thing to you, Patrick. Anything you want to plug, promote, shout out here at the end?
Osh covered it pretty well, all the things I was going to hit. But I would also say shout out to the significant others that let us play these games and go to these tournaments.
Yo, for real. Shout out to Sarah, bro.
That's based
Yo,
right there.
love you, babe.
All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys taking so much time to sit here and tease through all of this. It's, always a pleasure to see high level verses and then to come back and be able to dissect it on the show. So thank you to both of you guys, and I hope we do it again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. After I win the next Gen Con.
That's the spirit.
Well,
All right.
Mr. Ben lobbed that right up, and Osh was like, "Hold on, hold my beer. I got this."
Yeah. All right. And with that, go win some games.